Hi, you guys. Welcome to Refocus Live, step 4. I'm in my car again, and so we're doing a live broadcast from here. So, Refocus Live, step 4, and we did steps 1, 2, and 3 the days before this. So, if you missed steps 1, 2, and 3, you should go back and watch those. But you can still hang out here, and if you're looking for the workbook I'm going to be talking about in a minute, you can text 44222 to, and you can, let's see, it's text Refocus Live to 44222, and then you can get a workbook. Some people are having issues getting the workbook when you text to that number, and I think it's an international issue at least, if not, if there might be other issues going on too. So if that's not working for you, you can still get a workbook. You can go to theintentionalmom.com/refocus dash refocus live, I think it was. I want to give it to you right. Oh no, it's theintentionalmom.com/refocus your life, and you can get a workbook that way. Okay, so it's text Refocus Live to 44222, or if that doesn't work, go to theintentionalmom.com/refocus your life. Okay, because here's the deal. We have one step left tomorrow. And for those of you who send me a copy of your workbook that is completed, you're going to get put into a drawing for my new digital book and workbook that I'm going to be releasing. So one person who sends me a copy of that will win that. Okay, so step 4. This is a really good one today because we're talking about the things we have to do every day. We're talking about the nitty-gritty of how to get stuff done, because what we're doing here with Refocus Your Life is we're trying to get back on track to focusing on ourselves, and just, you know, we're coming out of summer. As much as I don't like to think about that, we are coming out of summer, and we're gonna have to focus on you know, back to school time and schedules and all of that kind of stuff that comes with the fall. And so now is the perfect time to get your systems in order. And so today we're talking about like schedules and how to make all of that work, because the fact is, as much as we would love to just do whatever we want to do all day, that's not reality for most of us. And so we have to come up with some, I love systems. I love that word. I love coming up with systems. And so that's what we're going to focus on a little bit today. So today we're kind of breaking things down into tasks. You have tasks you have to do every day. I have tasks I have to do every day. And then we have those tasks that aren't necessarily the same. On Mondays, we might have to do this. Tuesdays, we do this. So our weeks might look a little bit different. The days might look a little bit different. There's things that get thrown into the mix that don't necessarily happen all the time. But we all have tasks that have to be done throughout the weeks, the months, and the days. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We all carry certain responsibilities every day. You might have a job outside of the home. You might have a job inside the home. You might stay at home and raise kids. You might volunteer outside of the house. You might have parents or other family members that you're taking care of. You might, you know, there is any numbers of things that you have to do in any given day, as well as myself. But, and we have no choice but to get those things done. So we have to figure out, what we really have to figure out is how to make those happen in the most easy way possible, because really I want to have more time, and I assume you do too. Maybe you're like me. You want to have more time for doing the things that you actually want to do, and you want to have less time spent on the things you have to do. I think that's really commonly what we all want. And that makes sense. I would rather do what I want to do all day, every day. But the fact remains that there are these tasks that we have to do. So then we are going to focus on how we can get them done in the most efficient way possible, these tasks that you and I have. We're going to figure out how to get them done in the most efficient way possible so that we do have more time for doing the things that we want to do, okay? So let's talk about that. I've got 3 basic things that maybe you've never thought of before, but they can be life-changing in terms of, if you put these into place, it really can help you become much more efficient and free up so much time just by making these simple adjustments. Okay, so in your workbook, the first question is talking about every day you have certain tasks, right? So that's where we're starting. We've talked about that. There's tasks to do every day. How do we make them become, how do we become more efficient at them? Well, it starts with number one. You have to know yourself first. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that we all naturally work better at a certain time of the day in terms of when we're able to focus best, when our natural tendencies is. I'm naturally a morning person, but my husband's naturally a night person. So to expect him to do something that requires a lot of thinking or a lot of energy right away in the morning when he's not a morning person would be silly. That would not be when he would want to schedule the tasks that require a lot of focus, a lot of thinking, a lot of concentration, and, you know, a lot of physical energy either, you know, running right outside and cutting the grass or whatever. That, you know, it takes him a while to get going. And likewise at night, you know, I'm tired at night because I get up earlier in the day because I'm a morning person. I've done those things in the morning. So because I'm not naturally a night person, that's not to say that I have to necessarily go to bed super early. But what I mean by knowing yourself is I know that I am not a night person. And therefore, I should not be scheduling myself, just like I was talking about my husband, I should not be scheduling myself things that require an enormous amount of thinking, concentration, and energy level at night, because I might be able to force myself to get through them. I might be able to just, you know, we all know what that's like, to just power through something. But the fact remains is that when I know myself, I'm going to schedule my tasks accordingly to kind of what they require of me. Do they require a lot of brain power? Do they require a lot of focus or physical activity, or do they not? So I want to schedule all those things that take all that stuff in the morning when I am working at my best. And my husband would schedule those all for the nighttime when he's at his best. So it starts with knowing yourself. So the question is kind of, are you a morning person or are you a night person? But I'm not necessarily meaning how easy is it for you to get up in the morning. I'm more so meaning schedule your activities for when they work the best. Or maybe you're neither of those. Maybe you're somebody who really can only work well in the middle of the day, you know? Maybe you're going to want to have, you know, your tasks in the afternoon. And to some extent, your lifestyle comes into play there too. So if you have kids, like let's just say that you really would naturally work well and do those things good in the beginning of the day, but you have kids that get up at the crack of dawn. So then maybe you're going to want to save the concentration things, the things that you need quiet for in the afternoon during nap time, you know? So to some extent, your lifestyle and what you have going on around you, you know, your environment does come into play a little bit. But the important thing is that you need to, number one, know yourself really good so that you know when ideally you should be scheduling the tasks that you need the most energy, focus, concentration, and thinking power available. Because if I'm saving those for the night, what's going to happen? If I haven't gotten those done early in the day and I've saved those for the night, I'm going to get to the night and I'm going to be tired. My brain's going to be tired. And I'm either not going to be able to get them done or it's going to take me 3 times as long. And therefore, I'm not being efficient. So it starts with knowing yourself in this way. Okay. The next thing is to know your style. So I think this is one of those things that I think we often overlook. And what I mean by style is, are you the type of person who likes to get things done from start to finish? Or are you the type of person who likes to do a little bit at a time? Like, do you just get like bored with a task that might take a little longer? Do you need these little breaks in between? Again, this is an area where my husband and I are different. I would rather just get something done from start to finish. Now, again, that's not to say that my life always allows me to do that. You know, I've got 9 kids. I'm often driving my kids around, so I often don't have the opportunity to get a task done from start to finish. But if I do, that is my style. I would prefer to get something done from start to finish. I don't like that feeling of things being unfinished. So if I can avoid if I can avoid that feeling of things being unfinished and I can do something from start to finish, that would be the smart way for me to schedule things. However, my husband, when I'm scheduling him anything, or I'm needing him to get anything done, or when he knows himself well enough, he knows that he's going to need these little breaks in between. And so he can plan. So if he's working on something that might require a lot of brain power for him, instead of, if he were to look at that task and say, okay, this is going to take me about a half hour, rather than, setting aside a half an hour from 10 to 10:30 to get that done, he would probably schedule it to get done between 10 and 11. He'd give himself from 10 until 11 to get that done, knowing that he's going to take a break from that and go work on something else for 5-10 minutes just to kind of break it up, because that's the way that he works best. So that is the best. That's what I mean by knowing your style. I think a lot of times we try to force everybody into getting something done from start to finish. And not everybody works well that way. It's kind of the thing where you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Not everybody works that way the best. And so, if you're not that way, then it can be really frustrating. I have a couple of kids who are more that way too, who are more like my husband, who, if I try to make them sit down and stay on task, while there's a time and a place for staying on task, and, certainly you're going to have a job, they're going to have a job in life that would require that to some extent. But even if they're just getting up and walking over to the, pencil sharpener to sharpen their pencil, that could be enough just to give them that little break, and they really work better that way. If they were to sit and try and just power through, they're just going to start, pittering off, and they're going to either take a lot longer to complete that task because they're sitting there and forcing themselves to get it done, or they're not going to get it done at all because they're just fried with it. So know your style. If you are not the type of person who can get something done from start to finish and who can accept that, I'm losing my daylight, and who can accept that, if you're not the type of person who can expect that from yourself, then don't expect that from yourself. So know your style. Do you prefer to get tasks done from start to finish, or would you prefer to work on them in little bursts of time? Because then you schedule your tasks appropriately. I'm going to schedule my tasks to get done all at one time. If you're more like my husband, you're going to give yourself a bigger window of time to get it done, and you're going to intermingle tasks that way. If I've got three tasks to get done, I'm going to do task A, then I'm going to do task B, then I'm going to do task C. But if you are more like my husband, or it would be smart, and when you know your style, it would be smart for you to take a little bit of all of those tasks and work on little bits and pieces of them all at one time. So that's how knowing your style can really, really help you. Okay, so number one was knowing yourself, knowing how you work best, what time of the day you work best. And number two is knowing what your style is. Are you a get things done from start to finish person, or are you someone who needs to have things broken up a little bit more because that makes you crazy to try to get stuff done from start to finish? Neither way is right or wrong. I think it's having the freedom to recognize that you and I might be different. And so if you are somebody who likes to have that intermingling more, then schedule yourself that way. There's no need to try to force yourself to be like me. Not everybody's like me. So when you figure that out about yourself, that can be eye-opening, especially if you've kind of always been forced, and even trying to force yourself to just power through, and I just need to get this done, but that's just not who you are. Like, that's okay. Then just go on from there. Okay. All right. And the next thing is to know your weaknesses. And this one's going to require a little bit of honesty. And what I mean by that is, what is it that keeps you from doing tasks? What is it that keeps you from getting the things done that you know you really have to do? Is it because you feel overwhelmed? Is it because you have a hard time breaking tasks down? A larger task and breaking it down into more bite-sized pieces? Is it because you don't know where to start? Is it because you need that little extra push to get started? Is it because you get bored somewhere in the middle? So what is it so you need to take a step back and look at yourself and say, and just kind of examine some of the tasks that you've been working on lately, or, just kind of look back and look at some things that you might have done around your house and say, now, how did I get this done? And figure out, most of us are pretty good at coming up with excuses to not do things that we don't really like to do. But what is it that keeps you from doing those things? And once you can identify those things, then you can figure out a way to overcome that. So let's say, for instance, that you're the type of person who has trouble figuring out where to start. Well, maybe that would help. Maybe a way to overcome that, if that's your struggle, would be to ask somebody else, look, this is what I need to do. What do you think is the best starting point for that? Or maybe you're somebody who gets bored in the middle. So a way to overcome that would be to schedule yourself that time in the middle to focus on something else and then come back to it. Maybe you're the type of person who has trouble just finding the motivation to get in there and get started. Well, then maybe you need to give yourself some sort of incentive or reward for actually getting started. Or maybe you need to give yourself some sort of incentive or reward for getting it done. So you would say, even if you have trouble getting started, like for me, for instance, I hate getting my taxes together every year when I have to do that. That's like one of my most dreaded tasks. And so I tend to procrastinate on that. So this year I actually gave myself an incentive, and I said, if I can get my taxes together in this weekend right here, I put it on my calendar, I looked ahead at what it was. If I can get my taxes done in this weekend, then I can buy myself a new Vera Bradley bag. So because I didn't ever really want to get started, because I just didn't ever want to get started on that task, then I came up with a way to force myself to get started. So when you know your weaknesses, then you can figure out how to motivate yourself to overcome that weakness. And that can really, really help with efficiency, okay? And just with, again, what our objective is here is to kind of refocus ourselves and to figure out where we might, where some of our weaknesses and where we might fall short in a few areas, so that we can figure out how to do it better, so that we can have more time for doing what we want to do and less time spent doing what we don't want to do. It's the differences between the have tos and the want tos. We all want more time for the want tos and less time for the have tos. So if we can figure out how to become more efficient and more focused with the have tos, then we'll automatically have more time for the want tos. So that's why we're doing everything we're doing in all of these steps. Step one, we talked about sometimes being stuck in the past, and in hearing those voices about failure in the past can paralyze us from moving forward. So that's kind of where we started. And then we talked about self-care and how important it is to give to ourselves, so that then we can give to others, because we're really good at feeling guilty and prioritizing everything else, when if we would just take these few things for ourselves, we would be able to operate at much more optimum working order. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's like any piece of machinery, right? I mean, it's got to be in good working condition, and then it's going to work better than if it's not in good working condition. So it's the same kind of thing. So then we talked about that, and then we talked about kind of a little bit on goals and how goals work and getting something done. And so today we're talking about really the nitty gritty and how to get through the everyday. We have tasks every day. And so if you know yourself and you know your style and you know your weaknesses, you can use these all to your advantage to put your days together in a way that makes more sense with how you naturally operate. And most of us don't take the time to really ever look at that and figure that out. But if you take the time to do that, and you know how to do that, and really there's a little bit more that goes into it than this, but this will give you a really good start without overwhelming you, and really learning more about yourself, so that you can work with yourself in the way that you work best. Okay, so if you do these 3 things today, start focusing on these 3 things, and really start looking at maybe how things broke down before, if you kind of had, things fall apart, what went wrong, and you're kind of looking at that and trying to come up with it. If we can always come up with what went wrong, we can fix it, right? We can figure out how to do it better. So that's like one of the things I love to do most in life, is to look at something, figure out what happened and how can I do it better next time. Like that's like what my brain like thrives on, is like, give me a problem and I'll figure out what went wrong and then I'll figure out how to do it better. Like that's, I think I'm just that way by nature. So that's how I attacked this whole thing. When I looked at tasks and thought, how can we all manage tasks better? This is what I came up with. So really I want to encourage you to really put in the time to think through these 3 things here, because I think once you do and you start scheduling appropriately, you are going to find that you have so much more time and you really hate these mundane or overwhelming tasks less, which then the everyday stuff is better too. So, okay, so that is step 4. It's all about tasks and how to get them done in the best way possible and how you fit into that, because we still have to do these tasks. Like, unless you're lucky enough to be able to just hand these tasks off to somebody else, chances are you're going to have to do these tasks. So learn how you can do these tasks better by following these 3 steps, okay? All right, you guys, we will be back for step 5 tomorrow, and this is another really good step, okay? All right, you guys, I will see you tomorrow. Get to work on this stuff. See you later.